All right, guys, welcome back to another podcast, New Legacy Podcast. I have Matt Balzano with me. He came all the way from Virginia land to come and visit us and shoot some crazy Halo content. And now we're doing the New Legacy Podcast together. So we're going to learn more about Matt, his stories, his lesson, his experience. He's using all that, in his coaching program to help people elevate and become the best version of himself. So, Matt, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you came from, where your upbringing.
I'm Matt Balzano, and I was born in D.C., raised in Virginia. I grew up in a really great household. My parents were really great folks, and I had a really great upbringing. Like anybody, I went through a lot of challenges. A lot of my life, I felt kind of dissociated and distant from a lot of people in my life, and so I started really trying to mask my pain through bad behavior, getting in trouble at school and then getting in with the wrong crowd. I started drinking, doing drugs, and that really led me down a dark path. So I ended up around middle of my life, married with kids, and everything had really gone off the rails. I was fat, I was out of shape, I was broke, I was addicted. I wasn't the kind of person that my wife needed as a husband, and I wasn't the kind of person that my kids needed as a father. And that's really when my journey began, because I realized I didn't want to be that kind of person. I wanted to be the kind of person that I needed growing up, somebody that could inspire me, and I wanted to inspire the people in my life. So it's really been a transformational journey for me, starting with getting my mindset right, getting my body right, and then being able to make an impact on business and get my relationships where I really have deep love and connection with my wife and my kids and then my friends and family around me. And so that's really been my story. And to learn these things, I really want to be able to share that, because these are all common problems that people have. And I want to be able to share the actual tools that I used to make those changes in my life for other people. So that's really what's been the transformational journey for me.
Yeah, one thing you mentioned with me yesterday that I thought was really cool is, you mentioned that a lot of the fitness coach or like transformation coach, they have like crazy before and after image picture of themselves, like the A and B, like the split, right? But you've been pretty much fit your whole life, and you are, like that's a reliable piece for you. And you were talking to me about it, and you're like, oh, wow, it doesn't, I don't have these crazy transformations because I've always been reliable at it. I really don't let myself go. So I was like, that's actually a good thing, because that shows that you have the routine and the style to help people to be more reliable long term, instead of crazy one-off transformation that might, revert back within a couple months or a year or so.
Yeah. In fact, I did grow up athletic. I was really good at sports, and so I never thought that I would get out of shape. But I did end up getting out of shape by the time, my first kids were born. And it was the drinking. I mean, gosh, you cannot drink, 6, 8, 10 beers a night and not get fat. The older you get, the metabolism, the fact is the number of calories that you have and sugar and everything else and carbs. So I did end up getting pretty obese, out of shape. But I have been on this journey since 2008. And so for me, it's been, about 15 years, and I think the longevity is key. The fact of the matter is that when I made a decision, when I was able to actually see myself for where I was at, and I was like, I don't want to be like this, and I don't want to come to my family as this person, I made the transformation, and I never looked back. Mm-hmm. So being on this journey for 15 years, like you said, I don't have a lot of the quick transformation in like 90 days, because what it is, it's a lifetime for me. Mm-hmm. It's not something that I am just doing for a season. This is something that I'm going to do forever. And I think that it really takes that kind of mentality to make the change in your life. I've known people who have made radical changes in their life and it doesn't stick. And I think one of the reasons that is because they don't really have the emotional motivator that they need and the why. So that when the challenge comes up, when the temptation comes up, they're like, you know what, I'll just kind of do it this time. Whereas for me, the emotional motivator is so high. I don't want to be that fat dad on the beach taking my shirt off and having my kids be like moving further away. I don't want them to look at me and think this is okay, to be out of shape or to be broke and working like really low end jobs. I don't want them to think, yep, that's good, it's okay. You just work a low end job and you drink and you just enjoy life, and that's what it's all about. So I really want to, I think that the key is to show them throughout time. I'm sorry, I kind of lost my train of thought, but the key is to really show them that I have that drive because I have the why, and I show up every day because of that why. It's a transformation, and the transformation is based on a lifestyle. And when people come to me for help, that's really what they're getting. They're getting a system and a program that's not meant to just get you ready for the beach. It's not just like going to get you ready for the upcoming wedding that you're going to be in or whatever. It's going to be a transformational program that allows you to sustain that level of success. And it starts with that mindset. You build the mindset. And to be successful, to be successful in losing weight, and to be successful in making money, and be successful in having great relationships, all requires the same thing. It requires core principles in your mindset, and that's really what I start with all my clients, is getting their mindset right and really developing that why and the emotional motivators, and that helps them to drive through and power through, and to not overcomplicate things. Success is not complicated. Mm-hmm. It's doing the hard things well. And it's doing the easy things consistently.
Mm-hmm. So now you're on this big mission to help people, coach people become the best version of themselves through mindset, macros, and workouts. But I want the audience to know a little bit more about you, because you have a great background story, and I think a lot of people will relate to your story of overcoming tremendous odds and family values and the thing you have to bring out of you in order to get yourself out of current situation, or I would say past situation that were like, make or break moments.
Well, I grew up in a really great household. I was an athlete early on, mm-hmm. but I think one of the things that really stuck out for me throughout my whole life, there's a thing that we can look at where there's a line that goes through all of the periods of our life, and that really is a defining characteristic of who we are. And sometimes we don't notice it, but it's always been there. Mm-hmm. And for me, this through line is really a transformation. And so when I was younger, I was on the swim team. I was a really good swimmer, and I remember being at those swim team parties, and I really wanted to be the kind of the center of attention there. And I would pick up the broom and I'd play air guitar. And it was there were some movies out at the time where people were playing guitar, and so I just wanted to be that. I had no idea like how to do that except for to just grab this broom. And so I ultimately was like, I really do want to do that. And so I started trying to find ways to learn to play guitar, got a guitar, started practicing, and then I actually became a really good musician, playing all the things that I ever wanted to play, writing my own music, recording my own music. So that transformation, coming from elementary school age into high school, it's like I had a vision of what I wanted to be, as crazy and unrealistic as it was, because I had no way of getting there. And then I set about all of the small tasks in order to get there. Mm-hmm. And so another thing that I really wanted to do, because I was an athlete, is I went to a hockey game and there was a fight at the hockey game, and I was like, sold, love it. I mean, who the hell doesn't want to do that? Mm-hmm. So I was like, I want to be a hockey player. But in Virginia, in like the early 90s, in late 80s, there was no ice rinks. There was very few places where you could find ice to go play hockey. So again, this is a completely improbable dream that I had of like, I want to become a hockey player. And so I just, again, like was just relentless, trying to find the one rink. Mm-hmm. And I took figure skating lessons, which I didn't want figure skating. I wanted to be a hockey player and a fighter. And so I learned how to skate, and then I got the opportunity. And within a few years, I was playing at the highest level in the area, and played with one guy who ended up going play on the Washington Capitals. So again, as a story of transformation where I had a vision, I was able to figure out what steps would I actually take to get this started, and just take little steps to make that type of transformation. So that's really been a line that has run through my whole life. And unfortunately, because I was into the music, and because, I think what I was really looking for was a lot more love and connection from home, mm-hmm. I started feeling lonely and separated, and I saw these rock stars, and they're all doing drugs and drinking, and I'm thinking, hey, this is this is really fun. And so I got really into that lifestyle. And because of that, my, playing hockey and athletics became something that I pushed to the side. And I really focused on music and partying and kind of having that whole like rock star party lifestyle. I think too, it was hard for me to imagine that I could really be successful because I grew up where my parents were involved with a lot of presidents and vice presidents, and there was a lot of high-profile political people that I knew growing up. And so when I looked at those relationships and the kind of things that my mom and dad were doing, I was like, yeah, I'm never getting there. So I think I just signed up to be at the bottom, and I was just like, if I can't get there, then I'm okay being nothing. And so I really kind of embraced that really over time, where I would just, I did well in school, and I actually had a really good work ethic. I started working from an early age, and I got a job as early as I could. In fact, I tried to get a job before I could, where I was legally able to work, and so they gave me some odd jobs to do. So I really always had a good work ethic, but I never saw myself as being able to attain that high level of success that, my mom and dad did, and specifically my dad running his own company. And so I was just like, all right, I'll work hard, but I'll just kind of stay low level. So I gravitated towards the low end jobs over time, since I didn't see myself at that high level. And that went through, my 20s, and then by the time I was 30 and I was married, I had a kid on the way. I realized there's no way I could actually provide for this family in the way that they need to be provided for with the jobs that I had. When my son was born, I was working minimum wage. I did cleanup on a construction site. I didn't even have the skills to do any specialty work there. It was just like sweep up and clean up, and that was it. And so I looked at that and said, I just had it set in my mind at that point that I had to do whatever it takes to provide for my family. And I'd worked some technology jobs. I went back to an employer that I'd quit, and I actually groveled to get my job back because I knew that was the first step. Again, in my mind, I saw that transformation needed to take place, and it needed to be massive. I needed to go to a level that I didn't even think was possible. And so in order to do that, I knew I needed to take first steps. And those first steps were to go back and get the best job that I had had, which was fixing computers. And once I was in that job, then I started looking around and saying, well, who makes the most money here, and what skills do I need to acquire? And I think that's one of the problems that I see out there these days, is that people want to make a lot of money, but they're not necessarily willing to go and acquire the skills. It has to be something that's quick and flashy, and I just want to get it now. But the reality is, we bring value to the marketplace based on the skills that we have. And those skills are based on learning new things and acquiring new sets of specialties. So in my case, I really became proficient in IT. I started with the break-fix type stuff, and I got into network engineering and the high-level, type of architecture and those kinds of things. And so that really became my catapult out of minimum wage. I was working that job on the construction site, but within a few years, I had gotten a job at the Pentagon as a senior network engineer and supporting the Office of the Secretary of Defense and all these high-profile offices there. And that was because of the fact that I acquired those skills necessary to make that type of transformation. And it's about personality too. You have to bring excitement, energy, passion, and I think a humility to each of the situations, because I definitely went into interviews where I wasn't the smartest technical guy, but they hired me over other people because they're like, we really like your energy and attitude. You have the ability to work with us and change, things as we ask you to change them. We see in you the ability to acquire new skills and not be stubborn because you think you know everything. And so I was able to really excel in that area. And that was a great time in my life because I had young kids. I had moved myself from the minimum wage to now well over 6 figures, but my past caught up with me. And so, basically I had now moved into the intelligence community. I had a top secret security clearance. It was actually much higher than just a top secret security clearance. It was one of the highest level clearances that you can get. And with that, they did kind of a refresh of my background check, and they asked me more about my previous partying and drug use. And like anybody else that, like anybody else that does their clearance work, nobody's honest about that. You're not. You're not honest about that. I can't even tell you the stories of the people that I sat next to at the highest level clearance telling me the things that they would do. One guy telling me how many drugs he did going into the interview, going into the polygraph. So I never did any of that stuff. All my stuff was like before. And so, basically it caught up to me, and they were asking me to refine, like, well, how much did you smoke pot and this and that? And so when I, basically adjusted the numbers, they said, well, you lied on the original form, so we revoke your clearance. So that's the long and short of the story after the fact. But what I found one day is I was sitting there in my, well over six-figure job with my suit on, doing my high-level work, working on my presentations that we were going to present to these, CISOs and CIOs of these various agencies. And a knock came on my office door, and the security guy came in, and he's like, hey, how you doing? He's like, oh, would you mind coming outside with me? Because we were in what's called a SCIF. It's a secure office. And, basically you have to have a clearance to go in there. So he was like, yeah, can you come outside of this secure office with me for just a second? I thought, yeah, sure. I'll help you with whatever you need. I'm always there to help, And he's like, you might just grab your bag. And I'm thinking, that's weird. Why would I grab my bag? But sure, I'm on board. So I went outside, and he's like, yeah, there's a problem with your clearance. And so we're going to need you to kind of go home until we figure it out. So here I was riding high, like in the best job I'd ever had. And all of a sudden I get walked out of the secure office. And it was like, I didn't even know why. They wouldn't tell me any reason or anything. And in fact, ultimately it took about 3 or 4 months, maybe it was even 5 months before I got the reason why I was, they revoked my clearance. They didn't tell me that. They just told me, we'll check on it. But I was essentially fired and destroyed that day. And I think for reasons that we would know, they didn't want to tell me that right out because they would think I might freak out. I don't think I would have freaked out, but I think I didn't realize how bad things were about to get for me. So once I was walked out of that office, I went home, and the company started shuffling me from office to office, trying to say like, well, we're not sure your status. And then they were just like, sorry, we don't have any work for you. And then I was fired outright. So I went from minimum wage to earning well over 6 figures to crash landing totally dead on the ground. And once I lost my clearance, that was everything. I was like, well, I can't just turn right around and go get another job at that level. The clearance was my gateway. I'd worked the technical skills and everything else, but that leap in pay was because of that specialized clearance. So, and nobody wanted to talk to me after that. People wouldn't take my phone calls. People would meet me for lunch. It was nothing. I was like dead. I lost everything, my whole network. And so that was really when my next level transformation took place, because I knew that I owed it to my family, now even on a higher level. It was my bad behavior and my bad actions had caught up to me and now put my whole family in jeopardy, put my family at risk. We weren't going to be able to go back to delivering pizzas and working on a construction site. That just was not an option. So that's when I really formulated my process, and the process that I help my clients with, which is building a daily process that you can use to overcome any adversity in your life. And for me, what it was early wake-up time. Even though I wasn't employed, I didn't have anywhere to go, doesn't matter. Early wake-up time. And then a workout. You've got to work out. I had to start each day with mindset training and feed myself positive thoughts, positive messaging. Always be working on some type of self-development work. And that was a key component to my starting every single day. And then, I use some of the things like the law of attraction and visualization and creating vision boards, and the idea that I had a specific income that I needed to make, because I couldn't go back to where the minimum wage stuff. I had to make 6 figures. I had to make the same salary again because I'd lost it. It wasn't an acceptable option to make less. So I created a vision board around that and how much money I was going to make, specific dollar amounts and those kind of things. And then, of course, the law of attraction, the word action is in it. I took massive action every single day. Who could I call? Where could I go? What skill could I acquire that might make me more desirable to this kind of job? In those days, you would send out resumes. And so I would send out as many resumes as I could to as many opportunities. Some of them seemed way above my ability. I'd rewrite my resume to make myself relevant to that position, because I knew if I could get in there, if I had a chance, I could be what these people needed. It was a long road. It was a long road. So it was a long road from there. I did not know what I was in for. And it turned out that I was out of work for a year. I applied to over 150 jobs that I tracked, but it must have been, a couple hundred at least. I applied every day. That's all I was doing all the time. And the mindset that I built every day was the critical component, because I woke up thinking, this is completely hopeless. There's no way I'm ever going to make it out of this. But I knew I couldn't stay there. So I started with that, the mindset training, being able to give myself positive mantras, positive self-talk, so that I can make it through the day, and then wake up the next day being terrified, and what am I going to do? And so I would start again with the mantras and the positive self-talk and the visualization. So after a year of being out of work, of course, I'm like, hey, look, what can I do? And I met somebody that told me I should meet this career coach, and she gave me some tweaks and a different area that I should go hunting in for jobs. And that's one thing too that I think is really important for people who want to be successful. You're never too good for advice. You're never too high up to be able to take advice from people. And I think that's what happens to people when they get really high up. They're like, who's giving me advice? Who do you think you are? You don't have the experience. That experience is not necessary. The wisdom comes from God. It comes from this universal truth that flows around. And the fact is that sometimes people who are not on your level know just the right thing to say to spark you in that other direction. So I'm always open for that. I'm always looking for that. And in this case, I basically had somebody that gave me a hint and said, go look over here for a job. And right when I did that, an opportunity showed up. And it was completely different. It was in the sales world. I didn't want to be a salesman. I didn't know anything about sales, but I was like, you know what? I think this could be a good fit for me. And I jumped in with both feet, not knowing what I was getting myself into. And that was the start of the next part of my journey into the stratosphere.
Wow. So I got some really good questions for you this time, because your story, like the way you explain it right now, it's super passionate. And I want to see if we can use some of these info to help people that are going through some hardship right now.
Yeah.
So for you, what would you tell people that are let's say they left the job and they go after something and it's not working out, but they're too prideful to go back to that job? What would you tell them,
I think we always have to have the willingness to start over. Mm-hmm. I mean, great ones around any industry talk about this. Would I be able to do this again if I had to start from scratch? And a lot of times I think when people get so far along, they're like, I'm not sure I could actually do it again. Well, they're at a certain stage and maybe they are older and they don't feel like they have the energy, but we can always start again. We always have to have that mentality of starting again. I was on a call with my team the other day, and I was joking with them about times that I'd been fired from jobs in the middle of the day. I mean, hey, when you're trying to climb the ladder, there's not a bunch of people sitting there helping you trying to climb the ladder. There's people that are trying to kick you off of it. So as you reach for that next level, there could be someone that just kicks you right off. And that happens, And I am willing, and I think anybody who wants to achieve success has to be open and willing to endure those kinds of things. It's just part of what you have to do to make it in business. And so what I was telling them is, because they see me in my company right now, I'm winning awards and I'm, a sales leader in terms of the kind of sales that I brought in this year. But I told them, I could be fired tomorrow. I'm ready any day for the phone call to come in that I'm fired, and that's okay, because I'll start over again. And, I think that for anybody who wants to start over again, I think it really comes down to the fundamentals. You have to take stock of what skills you have now. How do they apply to the marketplace? Do you need to shift and look in kind of a different area and say, it's a lot of these core skills I have, but I also need to acquire, say, public speaking, or I need to acquire some networking, or maybe there's a specific certification that you need, and then be able to, what you augment what you already have to make yourself more valuable to the opportunities that are out there. So I think for people that are, because I think that's really terrifying for people when they're in a career and all of a sudden the rug gets pulled out from under them. How would you possibly start over? I don't have a lot of pride. Pride is not pride is going to be an inhibitor in that case where you say, I was too good for this. I can't go back down again. You can start over in a different area and excel past everyone else, because there are talented people out there, but if you work hard, you can surpass them in a much quicker amount of time through that dedication. So I would say just, have humility and be able to say, like, I can start again, and not have that pride.
So, you mentioned that like you were at this high level in your career, you were just flying high, and then all of a sudden, you hit a brick wall when you got pulled out of the office and getting your security clearance like blocked. Like from your level, like that was like, like everything just hit the fence at that point. Like all the shit just hit the fence. But what advice would you give for somebody that's like going through that phase right now where like the shit just hit the fence yesterday? Like how can they like bounce back real fast? Everyone got bills. Bills are not like, it always keeps coming as long as you're alive. So like, how can you help them pick back up and reboot and resume real fast?
I mean, I had to just swallow my pride. I went on unemployment, which wasn't enough money. I also was blessed to have family that would help me. But I would say that the biggest thing is just a willingness to do anything, go anywhere, endure anything. I think people, they're too proud. They're too proud, and they're too above so many of the tasks that are out there to be successful. For someone who's in that position, I think that really the core mindset principles that I use every day and that I use with my clients, that's really what they need to focus on. If you have the mindset and you have the why, then you can achieve anything. So what is your why? I mean, do you want your kids and your wife to be looking at you like, well, I guess they're just giving up now? No, you want them to see someone that can endure anything and is an inspiration to them. And so that's your why. And your mindset is that building process that you do every day, that you build through that positive self-talk and your vision of what you want your life to be. And so I think that there's no time like the present. A lot of times people want to like sit back, and especially like you just lost your job. What are you going to do? You're going to drink. Well, why don't you just pour, gasoline on the fire? Because that is a sure way to destroy any chance. You can't go wallow in self-pity. You've got to be willing to say, I'm just going to start right now with what I have. So here I had to start over in a new industry. I was in my late 30s at that point, into a field that I knew nothing about, sales. And a lot of the people in there have been in there for decades. But I realized this was a fit for me, that, it took all of the things that I was really good at, having great connections with people, being able to explain things. I have a lot of empathy for people. And meet them where they are on their level. And I think that's all really important stuff, part of the sales process of people making decisions, is meeting them where they are, providing the right amount of information, and then being able to communicate with them in a very effective way. So I came into this sales position, and this is when things really started to pick up for me. This is when another level of transformation took place for me. In fact, this is, again, the through line of my life is in transformation. From when I was younger, of having a vision to be a hockey player or like a guitarist or whatever it is. Now I was in this, this whole new community of salespeople, and I started seeing what I wanted to become, which was I wanted to become an account executive that was leading the charge with regard to the strategy and the ownership of the customer and from start to finish. And once I got into the organization, I just kept trying to find ways to learn more skills to be able to be put in that position. I supported the team from a technical perspective for a while, and I did such a great job at that. And anytime there was extra work to be done, this is, again, the key, anytime there was extra work to be done, I would take it on. So, The salespeople that I worked with, sometimes there were some jobs that they weren't super interested in doing for management. I'd take those on. I'll learn it because I'm going to be doing that for management soon.
Damn.
And I would dress for the part. That is, I think, one really key thing that is overlooked these days. I mean, yeah, being casual is great. I love that. I'm a very casual person, but also the business world requires a certain level of seriousness, and that's when you have to dress that part of being serious and wearing a suit. And so the people I worked around, they didn't dress like that. They all were very super casual. I showed up in a suit, and man, I got roasted. People were always giving me crap about, look at this showing up in a suit and everything. Who's this guy think he is? And it's like, well, I knew who I thought I was. And I knew what I was doing for the vision that I was trying to attain. Because like anything else, when I was in a place and I started looking around, who makes the most money? Why do they make the most money? Because they're providing this level of value. And so how do I provide that level of value so that I can be the one making the most amount of money? That's really the progression of self-development, personal development. So I would dress the part. I would show up to the meetings like that. And I had been preparing myself for an opportunity. And that's what people need to be doing. People need to be preparing themselves for opportunities, because success is when preparation meets opportunity. And I was looking at the organization, and with sales, of course, it's high pressure, high profile. And if you don't make it, you get cut, or sometimes people move on for better options. So an opening came up, and I was like, I'm going for that one. So I built some people around me, and I think another really key important thing is having mentors and having people that will help guide you through difficult processes. People want to be helpful. People want to see other people succeed. I know I'm talking about you strive and people kick you off the ladder. That's true too. But there are those people out there that are willing to take the time to invest in you, so because somebody did it for them. And so they want to invest in someone else and give back. And so I had some people that kind of rallied around me and gave me some advice. And I worked for this company. I'd been working for this company for 3 years, and this new position came open. And some of the other people I worked with also applied for the position. Well, they thought, I'll just kind of lob this one in. I didn't. I showed up like it was a whole new company, like I didn't know anybody. I did 7 interviews in 2 states in 2 days.
Wow.
So, and I also interviewed with my current manager, and I showed up in a suit and tie. And he also roasted me because he's like, you're showing up in a suit and tie. And it's like, that's how bad I want this. That's how I'm going to make this happen. And so I was able to actually beat out people that had been in the business for, this one guy had been in the business for 20 years. And then another guy who was already higher than me at the company who was going for the position, I beat him out. Damn. Because I came with a seriousness, and I think that's what everyone needs to do. You need to show up prepared, and you also need to show up with seriousness and an intent. Don't just show up like half-assed. Hey, I can show up today, in my casual outfit. You want something bad. You want, we know what everybody loves out there. Everybody loves the cars. Everybody loves the houses. Everybody loves the money. But you're not going to show up as your best self. You're not going to show up sharp and like ready for the business world. You need to show up at the highest level that you are capable of showing up as. That's critical. Throughout that whole process, I was able to win and get selected for the job over all these people, some of which were way more qualified than me. And again, that's another through line in my life is being able to put in that kind of effort and be able to win and beat overwhelming odds, to overcome adversity and be successful in the face of overwhelming odds. And so I got that position right when COVID hit. So this is a tough time. You have to go out and meet customers. You've got to go out and make relationships, make connections. I couldn't do any of that. I was shut down. So that first year, I still made a bunch of sales, but it just wasn't enough. And so I got fired. And when you shoot for the stars, they say shoot for the stars, you might land on the moon. I mean, sometimes it's not your day. So I got fired from that job because I just didn't make quota, and that's how it goes in sales. But I got fired on New Year's Eve. New Year's Eve, imagine that.
Dang.
Got 3 kids, and I forget their exact ages, but they were somewhere around, 13 down to like 7, with the weight of the world on my shoulders. And I got fired on New Year's Eve. Happy New Year. How are you going to celebrate that one, right? Well, I celebrated by doubling down. I knew that wasn't the end. I could start over again. I've got that capability of starting over, and you have to have that. You really do. So I just got back to what I knew how to do. Positive mindset, wake up early in the morning, keep working out, visualize what I need to do, have that law of attraction working, but also take massive action. And going out there and trying to find, hey, in this case, I could network with some people, and some people pushed me to some opportunities, and those opportunities ultimately panned out into another position. And that's where I ended up in a company where I was then able to build myself up into one of the top salespeople there. Obviously I had been able to acquire all the skills necessary to achieve that level. And so when I was given the opportunity in a company, I was able to make it to, one of the top salespeople in that company. And now I've sold almost $40 million worth of revenue for this company. And, this is the kind of success that I think is possible for anybody if you're willing to take on the small tasks. I think the problem is that people are not willing to do the little things well. Why do I have to wake up early? Come on, I don't have to do that. Why do I have to work out? I don't really care about being buff. It's not about the body. It's not about your body. You're building the kind of person that can overcome adversity, that can overcome that voice inside your head that says, I don't want to do this. Of course you don't want to do that. Shut up and get it done. That's what you're supposed to do. And so that is what I like to do with my clients, is help build them up through those kind of processes. My journey has taken me from that minimum wage job, somebody that really didn't have a grand vision for their life, and I didn't see myself being able to achieve the kind of things that my parents were able to achieve, to the kind of person that would step up and do anything for my family and become where I am now, which is top sales professional and a mentor and a coach. And that's really where the journey has brought me now. How could I do these things and not give back? I really want to be able to take the experiences that I've learned, and I want to help people achieve success in their lives. The more of us that achieve success, the better world that we're going to live in. The more people that are achieving success with their body, the happier they're going to be. That means they're going to show up into the world happier. The more that they achieve with their body, the more a positive mindset that they can build and a resilient mindset, the better person they bring to their relationships. And they can be a better husband. They can be a better father. And then we have less divorce. Somebody who can overcome adversity and act with humility is somebody that can show up in their relationship to their marriage or to their kids and be accountable and say, I'm sorry, and admit when you're wrong and make the changes. That can be humiliating, but that's what we have to do, because it's not about how I feel of being humiliated. And there's really, when we really dig into it, there's nothing humiliating about going to someone you love and saying, I'm wrong. I'm sorry. Those are the two most powerful words that you can use, is I'm sorry, without an excuse. Don't say I'm sorry, but I just did this, nothing after I'm sorry, just I'm sorry, and taking full responsibility. And I think that's one of the things that is my driving motivator right now, is to help people to build themselves into that kind of person and then be able to create those relationships in their lives. And through that, there's no way you're not going to make money. You're absolutely going to be the kind of person that makes a lot of money, but it's not really about the money. It's about the happiness and the life and being able to have those great relationships that you have in your life. So I think people really should take action now in their life. Don't put it off another day. They need to step up and do something now. You're not going to be able to boil the ocean. You're not going to be able to do it all in one day, but you can take one action today, right now, that's going to put you in the direction of having a better body, having a better mindset, having a better relationship, and being able to make more money. So DM me. Let me help you out. DM me at Matthew Balzano on Instagram and get on my program, and let's talk about what your goals are and what your dreams and visions are, and let's make them happen.
Matt, thank you so much for sharing your experience, lessons, and the struggles you had to go through to get to where you are right now. And I gotta give you a props, because you flew all the way out here from Virginia to make this happen, right? Not a lot of people go all in when they start anything new, but I see that you're the type of person that are willing to go all in to make it happen. You don't want that, slow, steady growth. You're willing to sacrifice whatever you need to sacrifice to compress that time frame to make it happen. And that's one of the quality that I see a lot of people I work with, right? I work with high-level people, and I see that they're willing to, sacrifice the temporary pain now to have a bigger goal, vision, accomplishment in a compressed time frame. And sometimes for them, it's a lot of pain.
Yeah, it's not going to come for free. That's
Yeah.
for sure. It's a beautiful thing. I think we have a split right now between, some people that have all just given up, but there is actually a growing community of people that are, looking to do self-development and build themselves up, and they're willing to help each other, and we need to tap into that. It's funny. One of my favorite sayings, honestly, and you probably see me say it, is Monday. It's the best day of the week. I used to hate Mondays. I never used to want to wake up early. I used to have a job where I would wake up at 3 o'clock in the afternoon to go to teach guitar lessons, and I made, I don't know, 50 cents a day. It was so bad. The amount of money I made there was so low. So I was the last person to wake up early. Now I really, truly believe Monday's the best day of the week. Can't live for Friday. You can't do it. It's only going to lead to pain and suffering if you're living where the whole week doesn't matter and you just can't wait to get to the end of the week and drown yourself in drugs and alcohol and escape reality. You're not going to escape reality. You're never going to escape reality. Reality is here. It's just you are the one that's not dealing with it, and it's going to show right back up when you sober up. And so it's funny to be here on Sunday morning, and most everyone is, just getting up now, and it's the afternoon,
Yeah.
I mean, you should have been up, working out, setting your mindset. I mean, it's Sunday, it's a spiritual day. You should at least be looking for a creator if there is one, In my case, I believe in God, so I'd be looking for a church on Sunday morning, but, at least it should be a day where you seek some spiritual development. That's another key thing, is being able to look for that voice from a creator that wants to speak to us, So it's just funny to see people they're just getting moving around, and day's half over, man. You've already missed it. Go back to sleep.
No, like we're literally seeing a lot of people waking up right now, like outside of window views.
Yeah.
They're like walking and bumping into things. It's kind of funny. Well, we're doing the podcast talking about motivational and like entrepreneurship, how we overcome obstacle and hardships. And we've been up like early this morning, just jamming it out. And
Absolutely.
watching like regular people just waking up and bumping into it's like bumper car outside, It's kind of hilarious. So I thought that would be funny to share it like at the end of this podcast, because in reality, it's like it's the people that are willing to sacrifice everything that are gonna win. And if you can't do it at that level, you don't compete at that level, you need to go get a job or something, because it's scary if you have to compete against a ruthless person like Matt, who's willing to do whatever it takes.
Jim Rohn, I think, said it so well when he had said, we want things to be better, but it's us that needs to get better, And like, when are things going to get better? When you get better, So I think that's exactly right. You just need to be working on yourself to bring the best person to every situation.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching the New Legacy podcast episode. We'll have more crazy stuff on the way. And thank you for being part of it today.
Thank
Matt.
you, Zune. Appreciate it, man.